Before England fell beneath the shadow of Norman steel, before the arrow, the battlefield, and the death that ended an age, Sir was a man born from disgrace, yet destined for a crown. This is the story of Harold Godwinson, the king no one expected, and the king fate refused to save. To his enemies, Harold was a usurper, a low-born Englishman who dared to seize God's throne. To his people, he was the shield against the storms gathering beyond the sea. But his legend begins not with glory. It begins with a grandfather whose name was whispered like a curse. Let's go back to around the year Kasaribu. Harold's ancestor, a powerful nobleman named Wulfnoth Sild, stood among England's greatest figures. But the kingdom was in chaos under the failing reign of King Sild the Unready. In this world of paranoia and shifting loyalties, accusations struck like lightning. Treason. The charge was laid against Wulfnoth. We will never truly know if he was guilty or the victim of a political plot. All we know is what happened next. Wulfnoth fled. He didn't just disappear. He took 20 royal ships with him and he became a pirate lord, terrorizing the very south coast he was once sworn to protect. The king, enraged, sent a massive fleet to hunt him down, 80 ships strong, a formidable force. But as they pursued Wulfnoth, a violent storm erupted, driving the king's fleet aground, smashing them onto the sands. And in that moment of chaos, Wulfnoth Sild did the unthinkable. He approached the wrecked English fleet, his country's primary defense, its great wooden wall, and he set it on fire. It was an act of rebellion so profound it burned his name into infamy. From that day forward, his bloodline carried the deep, unshakable stain of ruin and betrayal. Now, imagine being his son, a young man named Godwin. He was not a peasant, nor was he a true noble. He was something far worse in that society. Thereof a notorious traitor. He had to navigate a world that saw his family as a curse. When the Danish king, Kenneth the Great, conquered England, Godwin entered this new court as an absolute outsider. He had everything to prove and absolutely nothing to lose. And so began one of history's greatest comebacks. Godwin was fueled by a fierce, relentless ambition and a cold, calculating mind. He carved out alliances with iron resolve, offering his unwavering service to the new Danish conqueror. He showed loyalty to anyone who held power, proving his worth time and again. He also made a brilliant strategic move. He married a woman named Jida, a high-born Danish noblewoman who was tied by blood to King Kenneth's own family. He was marrying into the new establishment. Piece by painstaking piece, Godwin rebuilt the honor and the power that his father, Wulfnoth, had so spectacularly destroyed. He didn't just restore his family's name, he elevated it to heights it had never known, becoming the most powerful earl in all of England. Harold Godwinson, his son, grew up in this world of high-stakes politics, a world where a wrong word could be deadlier than a sword. He was forged in the fires of his father's ambition and the constant threat of political ruin. He learned from a young age that power was not given, it was taken, and he held on to it everything you had. By the 1060s, Harold was no longer just the son of a powerful earl. He was England's greatest war leader in his own right. He was the man who decisively beat back the Welsh princes who raided England's western border. He was the one who crushed internal rebellions, securing peace within the kingdom. He was so trusted and capable that he governed nearly half of England in the king's name. He was, for all intents and purposes, the second most powerful man in the realm, second only to the aging, childless King Edward the Confessor. So when King Edward finally died in January 1066, though within the great council of England's wise men, the earls and the bishops had a choice to make. They could have looked across the channel to a distant relative, a Norman duke with a flimsy claim. But they didn't. They chose Harold. They crowned him King of England not because of some ancient, divine bloodline, but because Ray had earned it. Through service, through loyalty, and through his proven ability to defend the realm, he had won the crown. Yet, beneath the armor and the crown, Sir was a man burdened by his family's past. Harold knew England needed a protector, a guardian king, and he truly believed that by being chosen, destiny had finally forgiven his family for the sins of his grandfather. He had redeemed the name of Wulfnoth Sild. But Harold also carried a secret, gnawing fear, that the stain of his ancestors' treason would not remain buried forever. He feared that the ghost of Wulfnoth, the pirate who burned the fleet, would return to claim its due. And in the fateful year of 1066, those fears surfaced as terrifying, real-world storms. Two invasions struck him like twin hammer blows. From the north came Viking fury, led by the fearsome King Harold Hardrada, who also claimed the English throne. From the south came Norman ambition, led by Duke William, who insisted Harold had once sworn an oath to support his claim. Against all odds, Harold marched his army north at incredible speed and met the Viking invaders at Stamford Bridge. He achieved a stunning, decisive victory, a triumph worthy of the greatest warrior kings in English history. But as his men celebrated, news arrived that shattered their relief. William and the Norman army had landed on the south coast. Exhausted, his army battered, Harold had no more choice. He turned his forces around and marched them south, and after grueling journey, they faced a second, fresh invasion force. At a place called Hastings, on a ridge overlooking the battlefield, Harold and his army formed a shield wall, the iconic Anglo-Saxon defensive formation. For hours, they stood firm, a wall of wood, steel, and courage, repelling wave after wave of Norman cavalry charges. But as the day wore on, the wall began to buckle. And at the climax of the battle, as the last hope of Anglo-Saxon England faded, King Harold Godwinson fell. With him fell an entire world, an entire culture, an entire age. Harold's crown was not inherited, it was earned. It wasn't won through a mythic lineage stretching back to ancient gods, but through charisma, battlefield mastery, and an unwavering sense of duty to a nation in crisis. He was England's final Saxon king, and in its hour of greatest need, he was its final Saxon guardian. Before Hastings became a graveyard, before England became Norman, Harold Godwinson stood alone between a realm and its ruin. If this story of the forgotten king moved you, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and above all may history never be forgotten.